I'm back with AP Microeconomics class, and this is my second class. So today I'll be starting with 1.1.3, that's production possibility curve. So we are still on unit 1, subsection 3. So that's 1.3 production possibility curve. But before I begin that, I will just go back and give you the answers for the 5 MCQs that I had asked in my last class. So let me just share the screen for that. All right, I had given you these MCQs. First one, which of the following best describes what we mean by resources in economics? So that's a pretty simple one. And we basically mean the factors used to produce goods and services. So for the first one, the answer is option B. All right, let's go down. Then we have the second one. What does it mean to say that a resource is scarce? Scarcity basically means that there is not enough of this resource to satisfy all the wants and needs of a society. So that's your correct answer. That's option A. If you have done this, then yes, you are understanding the topic. All right. Okay, then we go down and third one, which of the following would best be described as a positive statement? And okay, what could be the answers? Free markets are inherently unfair institutions. Countries normally experience higher unemployment during recessions. Business profits should be redistributed through taxes to benefit more of society. Increasing taxes is positively wrong, and the focus of the government spending should be on improving well-being. Now, out of these 5 options, this is a little understanding one, so I'll just explain this a bit. So out of these 5 options, you write A, C, D, and E. Can you just understand that they are like normative statements rather than being a positive statement? They are basically giving value judgments, right? So free markets are inherently unfair institutions. Now we really don't know, right? So it's just an opinion by someone, right? Business profits should be redistributed. This is again an opinion, right? Increasing taxes is positively wrong. Again, an opinion based, right, statement. The focus of government should be on improving well-being. Again, an opinion statement. So all the rest are basically your normative statement rather than your positive statement. The only positive statement among these is the one: countries normally experience higher unemployment during recession. Now, this is a fact, right? It can be tested. So that's why this becomes your answer. And this is a positive statement among these 5 options. All right. Okay, going to the fourth one. What are the 4 categories of resources? So that's a very simple one. That's option B: land resources, labor, capital goods, and entrepreneurship, right? Okay. And then you have the fifth one I had asked: what is necessary for the effective functioning of a market system? Now, here is what you have to understand, or I told you when I was doing that topic, that property rights is what actually is very, very important for an effective functioning of a market system. So, yes, the answer would be option D: well defined system of property rights among these 5 options. All right. Okay, so that are the answers for the 5 MCQs that I had asked in my last class. So I'll be repeating the same practice again in my every video, right? I'll be giving you MCQs, 5 more MCQs in this unit. All right, before that, let's begin the unit. Okay, coming back to this document, production possibility curve. All right, so now what is it? Let's assume that you have a piece of land, right? So there's a piece of land that you own and you can grow anything on that. Okay, assuming, right? So let's say that you are growing 2 crops on this. So production possibility curve is what I'm doing. You are growing 2 crops on this, and on that piece of land, one piece of land that you have, right? And let it be what? Let it be wheat, and let it be, okay, let it be corn. All right, wheat and corn. That's what you are trying to grow on that piece of land that you have. All right. So now, what So there are certain assumptions that we take before we go into this for the production possibility curve. First thing, that as I said, you have land limited, right? So you have a limited land with you. So not only land, you have a given technology also with you, right? The tech that you are using, whether you are using a capital intensive technology or a labor intensive technology, that tech is given to you, right? I mean, that's limited and that's given to you. Okay. And then you also have limited or your resources to be fixed, all other resources to be fixed. That basically means again that you have limited resources. So what I'm trying to tell you is that this production possibility curve functions with certain limitations, and one of the limitations being that you have limited resources. All right. Now in this, it resources could be your capital, it could be your labor, it could be the resource as such, the raw materials required, land that's limited to you. You have just one piece of land. And the second major assumption that we take is that first, limited resources, and second, that you are using all the resources that you have to its full potential. Okay, you are using all the resources to their full potential. That basically means that you are using all the resources to the maximum possibility or capability of each of the resource, right? That's what it means. Okay. So you are using resources efficiently, basically. So you are using resources used efficiently. You are using all the resources to their full potential. That's what efficiency is. Very simple language. That's what efficiency means in economics, right? So you're using the resources to their full potential. That's the second major assumptions, right? And the third major assumption we take is one word which we use in economics for other things remaining constant, all the other factors remaining constant, is ceteris paribus. That's what. So all the other factors that could might affect, your production of wheat and corn are constant. Weather and rain and seed quality, everything else we are assuming to be constant. Again, I'm reminding you, all these assumptions are being made so that we can make the complex world an easier model to understand. All right, that's what economic models are, right? Just to take you back to unit 1, 1.1 and 1.2. That's what we discussed in the last class. All right. Okay. Going on further, I'm giving you, let's say there could be few possibilities, right, of you sowing these crops. Okay. So let's understand those possibilities. Let me give you those possibilities. All right. So let me write those possibilities actually. So the possibilities could be, so here I'll write the possibilities. All right. You have A, B, C, D, and E. These are the possibilities. And you have corn out here and you have wheat out here, right? So we are distributing the land between corn and wheat. If I am producing 0 corn, then I'm using my entire land for my wheat production. These are in units, right? Quintals, tons, whatever you want to say, right? These are in units. So 0 units of corn and 10 units of wheat, right? B possibility is 1 and 9. C possibility could be 2 and 7. And then I could have 3 and 4. And then I could have 4 and 0. All right. So these are the few possibilities that we have for producing wheat and corn in our piece of land. All right, now let's just plot this. I hope you know how to plot this, right? So I'll try to have that table in front so that you understand. So I'll take, obviously it's a 2D diagram, right? So I'll have, let's say, corn. I'll have wheat on the y-axis and corn on your x-axis. All right. Now let's just plot. So you have 0 corn, that's a 0. You have 0 corn and you have 10 wheat, right? So the first point is somewhere here. That's point A. That's first possibility, right? That's point A. And then you have 1 corn. So you have this 1 corn out here. You have 2 corn out here, you have 3 corn out here, and you have 4 corn out here. All right. So you have 1 corn and then you have 9 of your this. So let me just plot that. Okay. So 9. All right. So 1 and 9. I hope you know how to plot all this. Okay. Then you have 2 and 7. So let it be, that's 8, that's 7. Let's say that's 7. So I'll have 2 and 7. I'll have 2 and 7. That's my C. And then I have 3 and 4. Now that's 6, 5, 4. I know my intervals are not correct, but just forgive me for that. So that's 6, 5, and 4. So I have 3 and 4 somewhere here. And then I have 0 and 4 out here, right? Now, when I join these lines, I will get a curve. It's not a flatter line. It's basically a concave type of a curve. I'll show you somewhere here, right? It would be a curve something like this. All right. It's not a very straight line. It's a curve. It's a it's a bow out curved actually. This curve is bowed out like this. It would be something like this. All right. So that's how you plot, and that's how this gives you now all these points. That's A, B, C, D, and E is what you have got out here. Now these are basically this, all these points, the locus of all these points basically gives you what we call as production possibility curve. Now, technical definition of a production possibility curve. So you can say that it's basically a set of goods that can be produced when given resources are used efficiently. So it's basically a set of goods that can be produced, and since it's a model, so we are just taking into consideration two goods, right, into this diagram. Otherwise, yeah, in the economy you have n number of goods that can be produced, but yes, just to make it a simple model from the complex world, we have taken two goods on this 2D diagram, right? And then, so basically your production possibility curve says that it's a set of goods that can be produced. So wheat and corn that can be produced in a given piece of land with the given resources being used most efficiently. That's what your A, point B, C, D, and E basically will give you. This is what your production possibility curve is. Do you understand? All right, so point D, let me mark it. So that's 3 and that's 4 somewhere, right? So that's 3 and that's 4 and that's 0, right? That's your production possibility curve. All right. Okay, so every point basically, every point on the curve on this graph tells us the combination of corn and wheat that can be produced when given resources are used efficiently, right? I'm just repeating the definition of production possibility curve again. That's what it means. It basically gives you a set of goods that can be produced with using your given resources to their maximum potential. All right. Okay. Now, another term that I just want to introduce with this is your production efficiency, right? What do you mean by production efficiency? Okay. In economics. So, in a layman's language, yeah, we can say that being efficient is producing is producing to, using the resources to their full potential. But technically, what do you, in economics, how is production efficiency defined, right? So production efficiency is defined in a way that when there is no way that resources can be allocated to increase the production of one good without decreasing the production of the other good. That basically means that if I go back to the graph, since you are here, let's say if you are on point C, and you want to increase the production of corn, then you definitely have to allocate resources such that you are reducing the production of wheat, right? If you are on an efficient point, then if you are on an efficient point, then it's impossible to increase the production of one good without decreasing the production of the other good. Okay, that's production efficiency. I'll repeat that again, the technical definition. It basically means when there is no way resources can be allocated to increase the production of one good without decreasing the production of the other good. All right. Okay. Now with this background, let's just understand few things. All right. I'll just rub this one. Let's understand few things. Okay. All right. I'll take few points out here. Let me take it with a different pen so that you recognize it. Okay. So I'll take few points out here. A, B, C, D, E, we all have. I'll take a point out here, which is, let's say on this line, this is point G. And I'll also take a point somewhere outside this production possibility curve, which is point F. Let this be point F. Okay. All right. Now, what does this tell you? So point F, basically, if I say point F, what is point F? Point F is not possible with in this economy, right? Point F, I cannot achieve point F. An economy cannot achieve, or in this case, let's say the farmer cannot achieve point F. He cannot increase the production of both goods by moving from, let's say, point B to point F, because that's not achievable. Why is not achievable? It's not achievable because of the limited technology and resources that he has. Because he has used his limited technology and resources, whatever was given to him to the fullest by producing at point B, any point on this production possibility curve. Do you understand? So any point which is beyond the production possibility curve is not possible with the given technology or given resources a country has or an economy has. All right. Or if I take it to an individual level, a farmer has or a producer has. Okay. Then if I come to point G, what does point G tell us? Point G is possible, right? I can obviously produce point G. If I can produce C, which is the most efficient point, I can also produce point G, right? I can actually have 7 units of wheat and some 1.3 units of, let's say, corn. I can definitely have, right? But then it's possible, but not efficient, right? Why? Because I am underutilizing my resources out here. Utilization of resource. So this G point is possible, but then it's not efficient point. Why? Because I'm not utilizing my resources to the fullest. I can actually produce the same 7 units of corn and can increase my production of corn by going horizontal, right? By going to the right and increasing the production of corn from 1.1 to, let's say, 2. I can do that. There's a possibility, right? So that is why this G point is possible, but it's not efficient. This basically signifies underutilization of resources. All right. And then from point A to point E, point A to point E are all your efficient and possible points. They are possible and they are also efficient points, right? To give you a very little flavor of macro out here, all these points basically show, your full employment level of output in an economy. So from A to E, all points basically on the production possibility curve show full, they show full employment level of output. Okay, so they show full employment level of output. All right. Okay, understand this. This is very important, right? From an examination point of view, yes, this is important. All right. Now that's your basic idea of production possibility curve. Okay. Let's dig deeper into this, right? Let's dig deeper and go into the slope of production possibility curve. All right. The slope of production possibility curve is nothing but opportunity cost. Okay, I had done this. I actually touched on opportunity cost in my last class, in my first class, right? But yes, I'll just recall it for you. So what's opportunity cost? An opportunity cost is basically something that you are giving up in order to get something else, right? That's your opportunity cost. So if I go back to this table, right? I'll just go back to this table again for you to understand how do we calculate the opportunity cost out here. All right. So let's say I want to move from point B. I want to move from point B. Okay. I want to move from point B to point C. That is, if I want one more unit of corn, if I want one more unit of corn to be increased, how many units of wheat I have to sacrifice? From 9 to 7, I'll go from 9 to 7. I will decrease my wheat production by 2 units. So that basically means that in order to increase my production of corn by 1 unit, I have to sacrifice 2 units of wheat for it, right? Now, this is what we call as opportunity cost for corn. 1 unit of corn is equal to what? 2 units, 2 units of wheat. Do you understand? So what is the opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is something that you are giving up or sacrificing. So here you are sacrificing 2 units of wheat in order to get something else, in order to get 1 unit of corn. So that becomes your opportunity cost of corn, right? Understand this concept. This is very, very important. That's what your opportunity cost of corn is from moving from point B to point C. All right. So basically, in general terms, what I can write as that the opportunity cost of corn, will be equal to change in wheat production divided by change in corn production. I know it's a little messy, but I want to give you, the answers along with the table. I don't want to scroll it down so that you understand with the table. So opportunity cost of corn is equal to change in wheat production divided by change in corn production, right? Now, if I ask you that, all right, what's the opportunity cost for corn from going from point C to point D? So again, the corn production I need to increase by 1 unit. So my opportunity cost of corn from C to D, point C to D will be what? Will be equal to how many units of wheat am I sacrificing from point C to D? I'm sacrificing here 3 units of wheat. From 7, I'm going to 4. So I'm sacrificing 3 units of wheat. So it would be 3 units of wheat. Do you understand? How do you have to calculate the opportunity cost for corn? If I ask you that I have to go from point D to from D to point E, then it would be what? Again, I am increasing corn by 1 unit of output. So to increase 1 unit of output, my opportunity cost for corn would be 4 units of wheat, because from 4, I'm going to 0 with that last move. Right? So can you see that the opportunity cost in this case is changing from every point to the other point? All right? Do you understand? So basically the slope, this is nothing but your slope, right? What's a slope? What's a slope in math? Simple, in very, very simple terms, a slope in math is given by go down for more space, all right? So a slope is given by change in y by change in x, in very simple terms, right? Here I have drawn a x and y axis with corn on my x and wheat on my y axis. So change in wheat production, whatever will happen, divided by change in corn production, will give you the slope of this production possibility curve. Right now, in the table that we are referring to, in that the slope is changing at every point, right? The slope is changing at every point. In fact, the slope is increasing at every point, right? So if I go back and just make you see that in this table, earlier in the first case, my slope was 2. Then it increased to 3, and then it increased to 4. So every time I'm going down, my slope is increasing. Now, when this happens, then we say that the slope of production possibility curve is, the production possibility curve has an increasing opportunity cost. Right? When the slope is increasing at every point, that basically means that every time you want to produce 1 more unit of corn, you have to sacrifice more and more units of wheat. That's what increasing opportunity cost means. That the slope of this curve is increasing from one point to the other. Right? I'll just give you the reverse also. So if I ask you that, all right, now I am calculating opportunity cost of corn every time, right? What if I ask you, okay, what's the opportunity cost of wheat? Okay. So in this case, it will just be the opposite. It would be the change in your corn production divided by the change in your wheat production. All right. So basically, it will just be the reciprocal, right, of what you get as opportunity cost of corn for every point that you move. The reciprocal would be the opportunity cost of wheat for every point you move. All right. Okay. So if for the simpler, for your example, right, if I want to say that, okay, what's the opportunity cost of wheat from point B to C, or B to A, let's say, not B to C, okay, let's say B to A, right? It would be 1 to 1, because if you go back to the table and see, then for 1 unit of wheat, I have to sacrifice 1 unit of corn. So it would be 1 unit of corn. All right. So always remember, the opportunity cost for the product or the good that you are calculating would be that how many units of the other good are you sacrificing in order to get one more unit of that good. Okay. All right. Now, in this case, we had increasing opportunity cost as the slope, right? As I told you. So in this case, since the slope was increasing every time we were moving down, or we were increasing 1 unit of production of corn, we were getting increasing slope. Slope was increasing. That's what we call as increasing opportunity cost. Now, why do we get that, right? Why do we have an increasing opportunity cost, right? What's the reason behind having an increasing opportunity cost? Why can't we have, you know, a constant opportunity cost? Okay, we'll come to that later as well. We could have actually a constant opportunity cost, but then what's the reason for increasing opportunity cost? Now, this basically means that, when resources are forced to work in an industry where they are not proficient, they are less productive. That basically means that thus the opportunity cost of producing a good becomes greater as more resources are forced into industry where they are not as productive. This causes PPC to be concave to the origin, right? So this basically graph that you get, this is called concave to the origin. Okay, so what do we mean by that? No, that's a very technical definition I've given you, right? So in very simple language, what do we mean by that? It basically means that in this particular graph or in this example that I've taken, I have wheat out here and I have corn out here. So it basically means that if I am using the resources, I have limited resources, right? So the resources that I am using in the production of wheat are not as efficient as in the production of corn. All right. So the resources basically are not equally efficient in the production of all the goods that we take in an economy. In this particular case, two goods that we take in an economy, wheat and corn. So the resources that I'm taking in the production of wheat might not be same efficient or equally efficient as in the production of corn. So every time I have to increase my production of corn, I have to sacrifice more and more of wheat because I am taking more and more of resources from wheat to produce one more unit of corn because the resources are not equally efficient in the production of both the goods, right? So the resources that are efficient in the production of wheat might not be equally efficient in the production of corn. So every time I have to increase the production of corn, I need more resources from wheat. And as I need more resources from wheat, basically the wheat production decreases. And it decreases with a larger number every time. So that's why this slope is increasing. All right. However, you can also get a constant opportunity cost curve, in which case the PPC curve would be a straight line. All right. If you get a PPC curve, a straight line, in this case, you have constant opportunity cost. That is, we are assuming that the resources that are being used for one good and the other, both the goods, in fact, which are taken into consideration. Let's say I'm taking here, let's say I'm taking here clothes, and let's say here I'm taking cosmetics. And the resources that are being used in the production of cloth are, let's say, equally efficient in the production of cosmetics also. So in this case, every time I am sacrificing my cloth production in order to produce one more unit of cosmetic, my slope remains constant. I'm sacrificing the same units of clothes every time. So I'll get a constant opportunity cost that will give me a straight line. Constant opportunity cost becomes the slope of your PPC curve. Remember, the slope of your PPC curve is nothing but your opportunity cost. Do you understand this? Opportunity cost could be constant, in which case you will have a straight line of PPC curve. And at times, this straight line is also called PPF, Production Possibility Frontier. But usually what you have is the increasing product opportunity cost as the slope of the production possibility frontier. This one, in this case, it would be a curve which is concave to the origin. Bowed out curve, right? All right. Okay. So remember this. All right. Now moving to shifts in production possibility curve. Now we are not going into a lot of complications into this. Very simple. Three types of shifts that I'll just mention. All right. So I'll start with shifts in production possibility curve. Okay. All right. The first, I'll just start with when your whole curve shifts. So let's say you have this production possibility curve, and let's say under what circumstances will this whole curve shift outward, right? It might happen. Or this whole curve might shift inward. Okay. So when since the assumption that we have taken for this production possibility curve, for any production possibility curve that we draw, is this that we have limited resources. With a limited resource, we can draw only this production possibility curve, right? If our resources get increased, right? That is, if there is an increase in land, if there's an increase in labor productivity, if there's increase in capital, technology, productivity of labor, anything, right? If our resources increased, then basically we can move this, we can actually, just give me a minute, we can actually move this curve okay, we can actually move this curve outward. Okay, so I can actually move this curve outward. Just give me a minute. Something is wrong with my laptop. Okay, okay, I can move this curve outward. So that's one thing. Okay, if there is an increase in resources, then I move this curve outward. The entire production possibility curve can move towards right. If it shifts towards right, that basically means that there is increase in technology, labor, resources, basically of any kind. So you can produce at a higher level for both the goods. All right. or if there is any kind of recession happening in the economy, there's war, there's natural calamities, or any kind of disturbances happening in the economy, that might also shift your production possibility curve inward, right? So the entire curve shifts inward. It shifts inward. Okay. Now, in this case, there would be decrease in land, decrease in labor, decrease in capital, decrease in technology, decrease in productivity. Any such sort of thing happening, the entire curve shifts towards left, right? That's the first thing. All right. Second, you can also have questions on, like, if there is, you have more of X good, but you have same of Y good. You are producing more of X and same of Y. Then what happens? Okay. Some problem with my laptop. Okay, let's see where up. Okay. All right. Okay, let me try with my. Okay. So if I have two goods, I have, let's say, X here and I have Y here. Okay. And I say I am producing more of X and same of Y. Then how will I draw the production possibility curve? So my Y will remain the same. I will just take the curve like this, right? If you get a curve like this, it basically means that you are producing more of X and same of Y. Now, just the opposite can happen for if you are producing, same of X and more of Y. So you move outward. So same of X and more of Y, same of Y and more of X. That's how you show that on a production possibility curve. All right. Now the last part that's left in this is your PPC as a model of a country's economy. All right. I want to show you something important in this. Okay. Okay. All right. So again, PPC as a model of a country's economy. So PPC as a model of a country's economy. All right. Okay. So the first thing that we have is scarcity. So PPC shows us scarcity. Okay. So you remember that point F that I had mentioned earlier, that was beyond the production possibility curve. It basically shows that we cannot go to point F, right? That basically meaning that we have scarce resources, we have limited resources. So it shows us scarcity. The second thing that PPC as a model for a country's economy shows us is the opportunity cost. That's nothing but the slope of your production possibility curve. It shows us the opportunity cost, that in order to get or in order to produce one more unit of a good or one good, we have to sacrifice some of the other good, right? So there's always an opportunity cost attached to a good. Okay. All right. The third thing that PPC as a model of a country's economy shows us is, okay, so the third thing that it shows is basically efficiency. All right. So as you remember that all the points on PPC, I had mentioned that all the points on PPC are efficient. It shows us productive efficiency in the economy, right? So all the resources in very simple language are used to their fullest potential. And from there, we cannot actually allocate the resources for increase the production of one unit without decreasing the production of the other unit. All right, of the other good, sorry. And then it also shows us underutilized resources. It also shows us underutilized resources. So if you remember, the point G in the graph is basically underutilized resource, right? Okay. And then, okay, and then it also shows us economic growth and contraction. Okay, so the one that I had mentioned, where if your resources get increased and you are moving out in the curve, if you're moving, the entire curve moves out, that's basically what we call as economic growth, because your resources have increased in the economy, the potential of production has increased in the economy, right? But if you are actually, your resources get reduced for any of the reasons, then if there is an inward movement of the curve or the leftward movement of the entire curve of PPC, we call that economic contraction. All right. Okay. And the last that it also mentions is, or tells us about, is trade-offs between two goods. And from the view of the entire economy, it's basically the trade-offs between all the goods that are produced in the economy, or n number of goods that are produced in the economy. All right. So I'll repeat again. It's important that what does basically PPC as a model of a country's economy show us, right? First thing, it shows us the trade-offs between goods, between, in this particular case, yes, between two goods. Then it also shows us economic growth and contraction. It also shows us the underutilization of resources. That's the third. It shows us efficiency in the economy. That's the fourth. Fifth, it shows us the opportunity cost that we actually incur, right? That's the fifth one. And the last, sixth one, it shows us the scarcity of the economy also. So these six are the crucial, what things, or I would say, you know, important features of the economy that's depicted or represented by your production possibility curve. All right. Okay. So with this, I'll end the production possibility curve, right? And that's your 1.3. Now I'll give you 5 MCQs. I'll just share the 5 MCQs that I want you to practice for this production possibility curve. Okay, just give me a minute. All right, let me go. All right, this is the first one. Which of the following would not be part of the product would not be part of the opportunity cost of going to college? This is the second one. The graph below shows the production possibility curve for a country producing ice cream and frozen yogurt. Which statement explains why the PPC for ice cream and frozen yogurt is a straight line instead of a curve? Flour is an ingredient used to make collages but is not used to make kuso. Which of these graphs show what happens when the availability of flour increases? Okay, so that's the first graph you have. That's A option. Okay, hang on, give me a minute. Actually, my cursor is not working. Okay, that's option A. That's option A, right? You have collages on the y-axis and you have QSO, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is on the x-axis. That's option A you have. That's option C. I'll come to option B as well. That's option C. All right. That's option D. This is C. This is B. This is C. This is D. And this is E. All right. These are the 5 options. Okay. Then you have this fourth one. The graph below represents a change in the production possibilities curve for the nation of exam, right? Exam. Okay. Okay. All right. Is it? Let's see the graph. Okay. Fruit smoothies on y-axis. And that's the graph you have. And fast cars on the x-axis. All right. Okay. Which of the following statements about the change shown in this PPC are true? Okay, these are your options. All right. The last one. The production possibilities curves for Jeff and Meta are shown here. What happens to each producer's opportunity cost of fresh baked bread as more bread is produced? These are your options. All right, with this, I'll stop here. And in the next class, I'll be doing 1.4, Unit 1, Subsection 4, that's Comparative Advantage and Trade in this AP Microeconomics. All right. See you then. And I'll be discussing the answers for these 5 MCQs as well. All right. See you then. Bye bye. Have a good day.